It's time for the Las Vegas Sports Line, brought to you by the Sunset Station with sports director Chuck Esposito. Presented by WagerTalk.com.
We kick off a brand new week of the Las Vegas Sports Line. It's the Monday edition, brought to you by Sunset Station Casinos. Chuck Esposito with us. Marco DAngelo is one of us. I'm the other. I'm Dave Cokin and Ari Platinum. We can't forget him. He is producing this fine program. Chuck Esposito on the phone with us right now. And Chuck, obviously our main topic to start things off. Boy, the Golden Knights have been in existence 2 years, and I'm pretty sure there's never been a tougher loss than the one yesterday at at T-Mobile, as they just, they had like 9 million shots on goal, but couldn't get one past Martin Jones and end up losing on a shorty in double overtime. That's a tough loss.
It really is, guys. I think there was more pressure in a weird way on Vegas last night than San Jose. Although from our side of the counter, we were Shark and under fans, and it worked out from a fan's perspective. Was rooting for the Knights. It's not a bad thing for our side, though, that it's going 7. I mean, tremendous handle, great action, great crowds in our racing sportsbook. It is. It's a really tough loss, I think, for them, the way that they peppered Jones. I know Jones is getting a lot of credit for standing on his head, and I think he played a great game. But I also think we missed a lot of chances. We just weren't opportunistic. Stone and Smith and Nosek all had opportunities to put it in the net and didn't, and missed fairly open shots.
Yep.
So it shifts back to San Jose for Game 7. It's going to be fun. I think both these teams right now, in my opinion, are the two best teams in the Western Conference, and I think whoever wins it will be the favorite to win the Western Conference.
I think they'll be the favorite, although personally I think Colorado's the team to beat right now, but that's another subject. Let's break it down a little further. For all the mistakes that were made in terms of not being able to put the puck past Jones, the critical error comes, of all things, on a power play when Shea Theodore, he got caught. A bad time to make a mistake leads to a rare short-handed overtime goal. And, momentum's, we talked about this before the show started. Momentum's just a word. They can undo that if they get a quick goal and turn things around on Tuesday night. But if you do believe in momentum at all, boy, San Jose's got it all right now.
Yeah, they do. I mean, this is a weird series. I mean, I've watched a lot of hockey, in my life, and a lot this year in the playoffs. And just because a team scores the first goal doesn't usually mean, doom. Yet in this series, it does. There's been no lead changes. No one's been able to come from behind, maybe tie the score, but ultimately not win it. Had Vegas won in overtime yesterday, it would have been the first time in the series that there was actually a lead change, which sounds bizarre. But I do think there's more pressure still on San Jose now. I know it's a tough place to go play in the Shark Tank, but now it's Game 7. I think both teams can, they're going to lay it all on the line. Both are really good teams. I think if we play the same game that we played in Game 6 and pepper Jones with shots like that, I think we win. I think expectations were sky high that we would tilt the ice again after games 3 and 4, which we did. We just couldn't put it in the back of the net. So I think Game 7 is going to be great from a handle perspective and, of course, for the fans.
Chuck, putting aside the fact that we're all Vegas Knight fans, when you've seen a goalie do what Martin Jones did in the last 2 games, after what he's did to start this series and actually getting yanked twice, how many times have you seen a goalie go on and just have that incredible run where he just almost unstoppable then for another series or 2 and actually puts a team on his back and carries him into the next round and beyond?
I have seen it before. I mean, being a huge Blackhawks fan, I saw it with Corey Crawford, where he actually got replaced by Scott Darling in a number of games, and then Crawford had to come back in and was asked to win a cup, which he did. So it's not out of the realm for a goalie to get pulled and have somebody else come in and then be asked to win a series. It's happened frequently, especially on teams that have 2 goalies. In Jones' case, I mean, he came into the playoffs, guys, with the lowest save percentage of any starting goalie of the 16 teams that had made it. So it wasn't stunning that he hit some, bumps in the road and struggled a little bit. And look at his career, how many times he has been pulled in the playoffs against Vegas. But he played, I thought, better really personally in Game 5 than Game 6. I just don't think we were opportunistic enough. We had our chances and just didn't put it in the back of the net.
So let's look at the betting perspective for Game 7 tomorrow night at San Jose. We know Vegas will get most of the play, but will it be as lopsided as it usually is? Or do you think maybe there's some pessimism now among the fan base and that some of them are going to take San Jose?
Well, I don't know about the fan base that's going to take San Jose. I'm sure when you look at the price, it's a much different price based on the fact that it's Vegas. I mean, being a Game 7 at home, you would think that the team that's at home would be a favorite. And that's not the case here. So, I think when you look at it just being Vegas, you're going to see a lot of money. Now, I can't say that as far as sophisticated play goes. If that number continues to go higher and higher, by the time they drop the puck on Tuesday night, you're definitely going to see some buyback. It's all based on value. I can tell you now, though, you're looking at Vegas to win the Cup at a much higher price than they were after Game 4. So if you like Vegas, I mean, you're going to get some value right now, because if they win Tuesday night, you're not going to see that price again, guys.
Well, if you want to look for a bright side in this, the Golden Knights have never clinched a playoff series. Short, only 2 years, but they have never clinched one at home. They've all come on the road.
That's correct.
So
that's why I thought there was more pressure on them last night, because they were up 3-1 in the series. Because from a fan's perspective, and even the media and analysts were saying, Vegas now is the team to beat in the West, especially with Winnipeg being out and Nashville on the cusp of being out. This is a Vegas team that's peaking at the right time, could have home ice throughout. They're the team to beat. So I think in a goofy way, there was more pressure on them because they had never clinched at home, because they were now being crowned the favorites in the West to duplicate what they did last year. You throw that out now, I think both teams are really good, very closely matched. I still think we have the edge in goaltending, and I think that'll be the difference on Tuesday night.
Well, it's not just the Golden Knights in action, because we've got 2 big NHL playoff games tonight, 2 NBA playoff games as well. We're going to cover all 4 of those right now from a betting and analysis perspective as we go to the Monday MJ Christensen 4 at 4.
1, 2, 3 into the 4.
Put them 4s up. Put the 4s up, I said. Do it right now.
Tonight's action is just around the bend, and the guys want to get your night off to a great start.
4.
It's the Las Vegas Sportsline's 4 at 4.
Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. Unbelievable.
And we started off with the Capitals and Hurricanes playing Game 6 tonight. A must-win for Carolina, but they're on home ice, and home cooking has been big in this series, Chuck. The home side has won all 5 of the games to date. The Capitals put together a great effort without TJ Oshie, who's going to be out for quite a while, it appears, for the Caps. Hurricanes, well, they have to bounce back from that, but they'll have the support of what has become one of the best home crowds in the NHL. What's the betting look like tonight?
Yeah, you're seeing Carolina money here, guys. This has been a home and home. It's become a little heated with what happened with Ovi, and then Yoshi getting knocked down as well. So I think with TJ Oshie out, and then with what happened with Ovechkin again, it's become kind of a bitter rivalry in the playoffs, which I didn't see coming. Carolina was one of the hotter teams during the second half of the year, but with Tampa Bay getting knocked out, a lot of people were looking at Washington and saying, hey, they might be the team to beat in the East, but seeing a little bit more Carolina money here, guys.
Yeah, I look at this game, Dave, and you've got Carolina. They've won 15 of their last 20 games as a home favorite, but all of the home ice and everything, it's a little bit different when you have the added pressure of being an elimination game. We'll see how they react tonight in Washington. They have allowed 3 goals or less in 12 of their last 15 games. They're making it tough for opponents to get the job done. I'm looking to the under in this one. Carolina's 8-1 to the under off a road loss against a division rival this season, and the average in those games have been just 4.7 goals per game.
The other Game 6 tonight is in Dallas, where the Stars are outplaying the Nashville Predators by a pretty wide margin in this series. They really dominated Game 5 at Nashville and now come home with a chance to close it out. This is similar to San Jose LV, as, there is some pressure on Dallas. They don't want to have to go back to Nashville for Game 7, but they really dominated the last game, and it's different because the Sharks happened to win Game 5, so they had a little momentum coming into Las Vegas. Nashville has none. They're just an inordinate number of giveaways in their last game. The first line for Dallas is physically imposing and is having their way with Nashville's small defense. I think the Predators are done. Dallas is getting the action in this game, aren't they, Chuck?
They are. I think the surprising thing for Dallas, guys, is that we knew going into the playoffs that Ben Bishop could stand on his head, that Ben Bishop could win this series, that Ben Bishop could make it go 7. But I think the surprising thing is the fact that they've been able to score. They came in as one of the lowest scoring teams in the NHL. And the fact that you're getting scoring now, you have Zuccarello, who was out late in the season. You know, the first game they got him, he broke his arm against Chicago. So they didn't have that kind of mesh and gel of having him with Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn. Now they have that third scoring option, and when you've got a hot goalie like that, it's really tough. I thought going into the playoffs that Nashville would be the Western Conference representative. They're that good. They have 2 good goaltenders, but really it's been Bishop, but the scoring of Dallas, and I think it's going to be awfully tough tonight and win.
I agree with Dallas, and you talk about how good Bishop's been. He stopped 159 of 170 shots in this series so far, and when he's been in net, 15 straight games now, Dallas has allowed 3 goals or less. They're making it tough on opponents. That place is going to be rocking tonight. Dallas closes it out.
And one other thing, look, goalies get into slumps. And Pekka Rinne's in a slump right now. And this is a tough spot for Nashville, Chuck, because, you know, I know Soros is a really good goaltender, good backup, but it's a tough call for their coach as to whether to stay with Rinne, who's struggling right now in an elimination game, or go to Soros. I guess they're going to stay with Rinne, but he might have the short hook tonight. If he gives up an early goal, you might have to get him out of there.
Well, he might. You're right, but I don't think that you start Euro. So I think you have to start Pekka Rinne. I think the same thing held true with San Jose, and I know we had talked about it. That would we get a goaltending change possibly for Game 4 or 5, and we didn't. I mean, he stuck with Jones, and I think it was the right call. Yeah. I think when you've got a starting really good goaltender, sometimes you get carried away. I mean, goalies go through bad stretches, but Pekka Rinne is one of the best goaltenders in the league, and if they're going to get back in this series, it's going to be because Pekka Rinne stands on his head and Nashville goes in. Like, if Nashville wins this game, everything has changed.
Oh, yeah.
7 goes back to one of the toughest barns in the league to play in. So I don't think you make a goaltender change. Again, they fall behind 2-0 quickly. Maybe you can throw that out the window. But I think you start Pekka Rinne and hope that they can get this game and steal this game in Dallas and bring it back to Nashville for Game 7.
To the NBA we go, and we've got a pair of Game 4s tonight. Not a lot of suspense in these two because they're each sitting at 3-0. Although they've been somewhat different series. Look, the Bucks were supposed to take care of business against the Pistons, and maybe that's the most impressive thing. And from a betting standpoint, it's been really impressive for those backing the favorite. The Bucks are playing as though they're taking nothing for granted. They're going out there and playing hard every game. And if they do that, the Pistons really don't have much of a chance.
No, I mean, you know, we just get through talking about hockey, and we talk about the parity with, you know, Tampa getting knocked out, Calgary getting knocked out, Winnipeg getting knocked out, Nashville potentially getting knocked out, and you don't see that same thing in basketball. I mean, you look at the way the favorites have played, both these two series, 3-0. Doesn't matter if Harden gets off to a slow start. He's still going to carry the Rockets when he has to. The Greek Freak's been unbelievable. Even in some of the games where they've played the Pistons, Milwaukee's found a way to get there and make it the right side for the bettors. So much difference in contrast. It wouldn't surprise me, even though on the road, both favorites end this series tonight.
Chuck, when you guys were hanging the number on this one, did the conversation go something like this? How high do we have to put this to get a Detroit bet tonight? Because the last game was -9. You got this one at 13, and it still might not be enough.
I mean, last game we had no idea that Blake Griffin was going to play. I mean, it's like he's out the whole series, and all of a sudden he's in. I mean, some of this stuff in the NBA is a little bit of a head-scratcher, not knowing, you know, who's in or who's out, but you're absolutely right. You know, when it comes to Milwaukee and the way that they've played them, and this team is really good, that the public backs them every game. And again, the favorites have gotten there more times than not. You kind of can throw out the zigzag theory with basketball because that hasn't been the case. They've backed them. They've done well. Much more parity in hockey, as I mentioned, but not so much in basketball, guys.
We look at the Rockets-Jazz Game 4, Houston leading 3-0. And here's the depressing part for Utah. In Game 3, James Harden could not hit anything. I mean, he couldn't hit water from a boat.
0 for 15, guys, before he got started, you know?
He was terrible. In the officiating, I thought favored Utah in the game. You got Chris Paul sitting on the bench with 5 fouls in the third quarter. And the Rockets still find a way to win the game. So, you know, if you're Utah, what's your mindset at this point? It can't be really good. And despite